Midwest, I welcome you all with the greatest respect and greetings to our annual fundraising Iftar program. My name is Saadet Yıldız, and I will have the pleasure of being your MC tonight. Before I speak about the program, I would like to give you a couple of reminders. If you need any help throughout the evening, please don't hesitate to ask our volunteers who will be available to take questions around the room. The restrooms are located down the hall to your left, and if you need a prayer space, the mist is down to your right. We're going to pray at 8:50 p.m. after we have Iftar in our masjid. After prayer, please come back to your seats and tables for an introduction. Additionally, if you're not on our email list and you'd like to receive announcements about our future cards at the registration desk at the end of the program. Also, if you are a social media user, we have put out our business cards with our Twitter and Facebook handles in front of you. We've followed our pages to keep up with our online activities. Now, we are inviting onto our stage for Quran recitations Dr. Aysel Karamanlı, Islamic Studies Scholar and Executive Director of Islamic Society of Midwest.
Welcome, everyone. I would like to read from Surah Al Imran, ayah 102 and 103 and 104. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. صدق الله العظيم. الفاتحة.
Thank you for that. Now for our welcoming President of Islamic Society of Midwest, Dr. Adi Salah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's not going to be a talk, it's just going to be only welcome. On behalf of Islamic Society of Midwest, I would like to welcome you all from the deep of our hearts for the Intra-faith Iftar dinner. Thank you for your time, thank you for honoring us with your presence. Inshallah, these kind of gatherings unite us more than separate us. So that's why we are trying to increase the number of these kind of gatherings. Either it's called interfaith or intra-faith or fundraising. The MC actually made a mistake. It's not a fundraising dinner, don't be afraid. But if you really want to desperately give something, we can accept. This is... I'm not like Sister Arshia here, she's very good at finding money, but I'm not. So thank you again for coming. I hope you will enjoy the night.
Thank you.
Now we are inviting Azam Nizamuddin to give his speech about unity in Islam. Azam Nizamuddin is an attorney, scholar, and activist. Professionally, Mr. Nizamuddin is General Counsel of the North American Islamic Trust and Chief Compliance Officer of Allied Asset Advisors. He is also the Editor-in-Chief of the DuPage County Bar Association journal, The Brief. He is adjunct professor in the Department of Theology at Loyola University of Chicago, where he teaches courses on Islamic thought and history. Mr. Nizamuddin has lectured extensively on Islamic theology and law, and on Islamic civilization to churches, synagogues, civic organizations, and federal agencies across the country. He is also a dear friend of the Turkish community and the Islamic Society of Midwest.
Dear friends, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight on such an important occasion during this blessed month of Ramadan, and to come and see old friends and new friends, and also to share just some thoughts with you as we then take the time to break fast and do our prayers and so forth. I'm asked by the leadership here to say a few words about unity. I will just touch upon some, I think, fundamental values that are essential before we get to the concept of unity. And I'll touch upon it, but I just want to thank Ali Yusufa and Dr. Ali Said for the invitation to all of you, particularly all the workers. I've been here 2 times, I think, and I've seen tremendous volunteers providing food almost on a daily basis, and they're all working in the back. We'll see some of them. And it's really important, I think, that we recognize the hard work that these volunteers are putting in, particularly during the day of fast. So can we give them a big round of applause for that? So I'll take a couple minutes and just talk. I'm not going to give you any earth-shattering speeches tonight. I'm sure you're all hungry, so you're not wanting to listen to a boring lecture. But hopefully we'll take a few minutes to just reflect, do a little bit thicker before we break the fast, inshallah. So I won't take too long. When we think about our lives today, and we think about the condition as people, as human beings, not just as Muslims, but just human beings, we realize that we are often dealt with certain qualities as human beings that put us in a condition that require us to further reflect on what we're doing, where we came from, and where we are going. Now, that human condition is part of our nature. That nature has a tendency for us to forget where we came from, and more importantly, where we are going. As a result of this, different ideas and philosophies have been developed over time to help us explain who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. And sometimes these are called religions, sometimes they're called philosophies, and sometimes they're even called secular ideas and thoughts. However, if we look to the Islamic tradition, our own religion, we have provided, our deen has provided answers to these fundamental questions of who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. And we begin, of course, with the fundamental concept of Tawheed, the concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in existence. Now the question you may ask, and perhaps your children ask, is, how do we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do we know God? Because before we can talk about who we are, before we can talk about what we should be doing, how we can improve the community, how to make lives better, and so forth, we have to kind of start from the beginning and ask, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And how do we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we know that, of course, through His revelation, right? Wahi, the Quran and revelation that He sent to humanity over time. And we know also through, as a result of prophecy, or nubuwah. The Quran also reminds us that we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His Asma al-Husna, His names, right? And hadith provide us specifics as to the number of names or Asma al-Husna, ranging from 99 to about 123, depending on the hadith narration involved. So, if we look at these, we don't have time to go over all 99 names, of course, but I want to reflect on a couple for tonight. And those couple for tonight all relate to our Ramadan experience. Okay, our Ramadan experience. Because as we know, in an important hadith related by Salman al-Farisi, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, in talking about the Prophet ﷺ, that Ramadan consists of 3 different parts. The first part is mercy. The second part has to do with forgiveness. And finally, the last part is emancipation or freedom from Jahannam, or hell. Today is about the 15th or 16th day of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah. Can we all say Alhamdulillah? Can you believe it? It seems like just the other day we were all debating with one another of when we should start fasting, right? Was it Wednesday? Was it Thursday? Is it moon sighting? Is it calculation? Is it this group, that? We're all debating about this. And now we're into the 15th day. Can you believe it? Think about that. Most of us, when we live our lives as professionals or students or workers, we have a certain lifestyle and pattern. And it's very difficult to give up that lifestyle and pattern. right? So we all usually start off our day with what? What? Breakfast, but what one particular thing? Coffee, right? You know, Starbucks is really losing a lot of Muslim business during the past few weeks, right? And of course, Dunkin' Donuts, for those of you who go there. We won't talk about that. But I'm a big Starbucks, fan, and I would be drinking every day, if not at work or somewhere. So every day we have some coffee. And when we're living our lives, we think, well, we have to have breakfast. Have to have a sound breakfast. Well, we have to have some coffee, otherwise I can't operate, right? But for the last 15 days, without our spouses telling us, without our parents telling us, without our bosses telling us, without the sheikh or the alim telling us, or our murshid telling us, we've given it up. We've simply given it up. Same thing when lunchtime comes around, right? We get really hungry during the day. We have to sort of debate what we're going to do for lunch. We'll maybe go see a colleague. We may go drop some food somewhere here, get some food here and there, drop it and so forth. Same thing when dinner comes around. We were really anxious when we want to have dinner. We have this big preparation and so forth. But all that has disappeared. All that is gone. There's no more like getting angst and anxious about dinner, lunch, and breakfast, not having coffee. How does that come about? That comes about because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about this. When a lot of people talk about the existence of God or religion, and we're talking about whether there is a religion, and in the secular modern world with fast-paced things like that, people don't have time to do salah and so forth. How is it possible that it is during this month, more than in any other time, we not only give up the basic needs that we have, such as water and food and coffee, but we pray more. We try not to miss a single prayer. And on top of that, a lot of times we're so busy, we won't even read the Quran, except for perhaps a certain occasion. Somebody has passed away, so we may read the Quran in their name or whatever. Or some other time we go to a class or listen to a lecture that might sort of motivate us to attend and read a little Quran. But brothers and sisters, many of you who maybe during the rest of the year are taking it back and taking it easy, are now reading Quran on a daily basis. You're reading, and you're doing dhikr on a regular basis. You're doing your namaz and salah on a disciplined kind of basis. How did that happen? That didn't happen because someone gave you a logical reasoning or logical argument. No one gave you a philosophical introduction as to the needs of this. No one kind of came out to you and demanded. No one authorized you to do this. No one forced you to do this. Again, not your family, not your boss, not your sheikh, but rather it is an incredible sort of feeling within you that it is time for us to put everything else aside. Put everything else aside and instead focus on coming together to worship and to reflect on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Ramadan can't be the proof of the existence of God and the proof of the existence of religion, I don't know what can be. And that's exactly what it is. It's not just a month in the calendar. It's not simply something we talk to non-Muslims about fasting and how cool it is. No. Ramadan is the proof of the existence of God. It is the proof of the existence of your commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and vice versa. And this comes about, as I mentioned, through the beautiful attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of which, of course, is Al-Ghaffar, right? The forgiver. Al-Ghaffar, which is one of the 99 names, comes from a root, or a noun, a verbal noun, which is Ghufran, and it means forgiveness, but it has a special, particular meaning of forgiveness, which is covering and concealing. So think about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Ghaffar. Why? Because it's in the month of Ramadan that He's covering and concealing what? Our sins, our faults, our weaknesses, through fasting, through salah, through Quran. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Lord is Al-Ghaffar. Now we can be appreciative of this reality and cultivate this divine name by giving not just the recognition conceptually, but understanding how forgiving Allah is with us, so therefore we have to be equally, at least attempt to be, forgiving towards our brothers and sisters. It is by recognizing that we have to assume the attribute of forgiveness to our family, to our friends, to our colleagues, to our brothers and sisters in the community, to other people in the community. That attribute and that development of consciousness that we need to adopt is a fundamental trait prior to even discussing unity. We cannot be unified on anything, whether it is political, religious, ideological, social, without inculcating the level of forgiveness, astaghfar, into our hearts. Because it is the heart that is the principal tool or the principal organ that allows us to recognize Allah and to show gratitude and forgiveness for our brothers and sisters. So one of the things that now that we've been halfway into Ramadan, is ask yourself, have I inculcated the attribute of forgiveness? Sit there, I'm seriously, just take like 10, 15 seconds, ask yourself, close your eyes or whatever, don't be distracted by people walking around or noise. Ask yourself, have I adopted a sense of forgiveness for those who have wronged me? For those who have hurt me? Whether they're family, friends, community leaders, a khatib perhaps. If not, then mashallah, you still have 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks to adopt that as well. Now, in addition to al-Ghafar, there's another attribute of Asma al-Husna of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is mentioned in the hadith, which is al-Ghafur. So it's both al-Ghafar and al-Ghafur. Al-Ghafur comes from a different verbal noun, which is Ghafar, which represents the healing. A healing from a wound. What is the wound from? Sin. It is the healing of the wounds that we have self-created in ourselves as a result of sins. So to seek forgiveness means seeking absolution from sin. If the act of seeking forgiveness is coupled with brokenness, then it is sound. If it is joined with repentance, then it is perfect. In a hadith that's well known and found in many collections, including Al-Tirmidhi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in a hadith, O son of Adam, in other words, everybody, were you to come to me with sins as nearly as great as the earth, and were you to then face me and not having engaged in shirk, then I will bring to you a similar amount of forgiveness of your sins. Think about that, brothers and sisters. Not only does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create us, not only does He guide us, not only does He sustain us, but after we have disobeyed, after we have harmed ourselves or other people, as long as we recognize the fundamental reality of Tawheed and recognize His importance, He nevertheless will forgive us for our sins, particularly during this incredible, important month of Ramadan. Now, one of the important other aspects of unity, as mentioned in the Hadith, in Quran and so forth, is to have a sense of righteousness and brotherhood. The verse that Sheikh Ali recited mentions this in verse 102 and 103, where he says, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hold fast all of you to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not separate or become divided. And remember how Allah favored you, how you were enemies and He made friends between you. And you were on the brink of the abyss and He did save you from all this. So here we have an opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an opportunity to friend one another. So brothers and sisters, I hope that for the next 2 weeks that we further engage in our ibadats, that we have an opportunity to mend our hearts and become closer to God, to our families and our friends, and all the people here. So I want to thank you again for coming tonight. And I want to thank the Islamic Society of Midwest for putting on this incredible dinner meal. If you look all around you, the room is packed, and this is all done by volunteers. And again, shows the tremendous heart, softness, and sacrifice that our community members make for one another, simply for the sake of Ramadan and this beautiful month. So with that, I will conclude my talk, and I want to thank you very much. May you have a wonderful second half of Ramadan and inculcating forgiveness and emancipation from Jahannam, and I hope that you have a successful rest of the month in terms of your goals of fasting, your goals of reading Quran, and your goals of salah. May Allah bless you and keep you safe. With that, I bid you Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you for that talk. And now we will play the adhan, so you guys can all break your fast.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Ashhadu an la
is incredible, and as many of you know, it is the right time and the best time to inshallah contribute if you can to this community. Believe me, they did not ask me to share that. But also thank you to Brother Azam, who gave us such incredible words of wisdom in order to be in community together, to really think about forgiveness and to think about how does that impact our own relationship with each other. We are going to inshallah go to Salat al-Maghrib. I'm going to recite Surah al-Fatiha for you inshallah and say a quick dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم أنس وحشتنا في قبرنا، اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرنا مما نسينا وعلمنا مما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وآناء النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي أطعمنا وسقانا وجعلنا من المسلمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمعلمين والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات يوم يقوم الحساب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك من نبيك محمد بك من شر ما استعاذك من نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأنت المستعان وأنت المستعان يا رب، وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ. بالله العلي العظيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ولم نكن بداعيك رب شقيا يا الله يا رحمن الرحيم. We ask of all the good that the Prophet asked you of, and we seek refuge from all of the evil that the Prophet sought refuge of. Indeed, to you do all matters return, with you we seek help. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. And indeed, you are capable of all things. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ولم نكن بدعائك رب الشقياء آمين يا رب. I just wanted to say that this Ramadan I'm offering free Quran lessons, particularly to young women in the community who would like to learn. So if you wanted to reach out to me, please do, because the Quran is the month, the Ramadan is the month of the Quran, as you know. And if you have young women in your community who are at the basic level and they want to grow, or if they just want to learn the alphabet, I'm here inshallah. Please reach out to me. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. Hello. My name is Hatice. Tonight we're gathered here at an Iftar that was set up and manned by Islamic Society that it was, mainly within the greater Chicago. Sorry. Okay. Islamic Society of Midwest is a non-profit organization, and they organize some very cool and interesting events for both my community, Muslim community, Turkish community, and the surrounding communities in its area. The first, sorry for that. Okay, the first part of this, we have a masjid, and some of the services our masjid offers is daily prayer and Jummah prayer, and this is attended by our Muslim community. And at our masjid, we offer lessons on tajweed and the rules for Quranic recitation. There are also adult religious education programs, seminars, halaqas, and book clubs that we provide. Other activities that we do in the masjid include teaching and encouraging Muslims to establish their worship, salah, fasting, zakah, and hajj. It's an area that we have for our Muslim community to gather in. Another aspect of that we provide is our inter-Muslim community dialogue activity. We are trying to establish common projects that connect the Muslims and the Muslim youth within our own community. Some of these are iftars, lunches, meetings, workshops, and other youth activities that bring us together. The iftar tonight, for example, is an example of such activities that we provide. We have the Chicago Islamic Wisdom Academy. This part of our organization works to teach Muslims in other areas with their own masjids, with their own communities, ways to help service their own areas and communities. We help educate them to become Quran Islam teachers and preachers in their own areas. And they go back to their own areas and masjids with what they learned in our tafsir, hadith, fiqh, aqidah, and Arabic classes that we have provided for them. As I mentioned before, we have book clubs, and in our book clubs we offer these for our Turkish Muslim community that we have here. Their purpose is to help maintain the religious and spiritual needs of our members. And we have regular weekly and monthly book discussion clubs. Here we discuss both religious books and the Quran. One of the parts that we are proud of in our organization and that has helped other areas is the chaplaincy for correctional facilities and, inshallah, in the future, hospitals. The chaplaincy provided by our organization works to contribute with supporting the spiritual needs of both Muslim and non-Muslim individuals in the surrounding American community via the chaplaincy activities in correctional facilities and in the near future, inshallah, the hospitals.
Currently, we have 26 volunteers who work in Cook County with correctional facilities. Inshallah, we will also have these activities and programs in the hospitals and work together with those people to provide for their spiritual needs and discussions. Another thing we work for is the Intra-faith dialogue activities. As there are dialogue activities for Muslims in our own community, we also offer dialogue activities with non-Muslim groups to similarly build connection and understanding. Some of these activities include establishing lunches, iftars, and things we call Know Your Muslim Neighbor activities. Just last month, we had Know Your Muslim Neighbor activities in Des Plaines and Norton Grove libraries, where we had our non-Muslim friends come over and talk together about Muslims in their areas. On May 20th, there was an interfaith dialogue dinner, and we often have non-Muslims come and observe Jumu'ah prayer at our masjid as well, to include them in what we do daily. Of course, as we offer many different programs and activities for both adult and youth, we also offer them for the kids as well. We support the homeschool projects by teaching Islamic studies and Quran recitation rules in classes. We also have Kids Salah projects and other programs for children that are both entertaining and educational, so that we can educate our youth and kids to both appreciate their religion and their own communities. One of these was the Quranic Quran contest that was held last month. Or not this month, sorry. With this, we have many different activities and programs scheduled for all sorts of people with whatever their needs. And we work, inshallah, more in the future to build upon these connections and create more opportunities to connect with others. We would appreciate you attending one of our events, whether or not you're Muslim or not. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you and thank you for honoring us in this Holy Ramadan. I hope this Holy Ramadan will give us tranquility and peace. Thank you very much. Inshallah, see you again on the next Iftars.
Next year or next year? Next year.